1 minute ago. Manny disappeared after delivering the USB. Capricorn is the only living witness. I didn't come here to ruin anyone. I came here because someone had to stop the machine. David James's voice echoed through the D.C. federal courthouse, trembling only slightly, as he faced Sean Diddy Combs for the first time in over a decade. Cameras snapped, journalists leaned forward, and on every live feed across the country the nation listened. David wasn't just any witness. He was the ghost of the celebrity underworld, a man who once served drinks at private island parties, installed secret cameras under chandeliers, and watched too much without ever blinking. But today he spoke. He testified that in 2009 he delivered a black suitcase to Diddy at a private party on Star Island. Inside was a hard drive. The same one that would later reappear in 2025 dropped anonymously at a federal mailbox. James had recorded everything: political figures, celebrities, illegal drugs, and minors under duress. He went further. In his testimony, David revealed that Diddy's network wasn't just about power, it was about leverage. He kept tapes not to remember but to control. Suddenly a name dropped like a bomb. Someone high up in the government knew, gave him protection, the initials BH. Murmurs exploded in the gallery. The judge called for order, but the story was already unraveling. Weeks before the trial, Kash Patel, former Trump administration official turned rogue investigator, had obtained a 17-second video snippet from a USB drive allegedly showing Diddy and a man codenamed 44 exchanging words at a Star Island party. The camera cuts out right after the handshake. That man, insiders believe, was none other than former President Barack Obama. An internal FBI memo leaked shortly after signed, with the initials BH, ordered the shutdown of early investigations into Diddy's operations in 2009. Strategic Comms Directive, confidential. When asked why he brought this forward, Kash answered coldly, because people are vanishing. Cassie Ventura was supposed to testify. She's gone. And now David is next. I'm not waiting for another funeral. Before disappearing, Cassie Ventura had left a voice memo. It was played in court. If you're hearing this, I didn't run. I just ran out of options. Tell my brother I didn't sell out. Her voice cracked. Then silence. She had once been Diddy's protege and partner. Behind the glamour was years of control threats and manipulation. She had video footage allegedly more incriminating than any yet seen, and now she is gone. As the case escalated, a CNN anchor, one closely tied to high-level Democratic donors, began pushing a new angle. The real culprit, he claimed, wasn't Diddy or Obama. It was a cover-up orchestrated by Trump's former team. This isn't about Hollywood abuse, the anchor said. It's a political revenge play. But public documents said otherwise. FBI audit logs showed the 2009 suppression order. DOJ internal emails, cross-linked names including Chloe Reed and True Light Holdings. Redacted files, encrypted data, and burner phones were now connecting pop culture to Capitol Hill. Back in court, David James reached into his pocket. I held this for 14 years, he said, placing a scratched USB drive onto the witness bench. I didn't testify before because I was scared, but Cassie had the courage I didn't, and now I owe her. On it, timestamps, footage, metadata, the chain of custody. One file even showed a 3:02 a.m. email from a DOJ address marked Top Secret, Asset Retention Protocol. The judge ordered a sealed review, but the press already had the scent, and the people, they were awake. Kash Patel stood outside the courthouse as protesters gathered. No more silence, he said. This isn't about politics, it's about power, and power doesn't protect the innocent. David James sat before the courtroom like a man wrestling with ghosts. Former assistant fixer and gatekeeper to the world of Sean Diddy Combs, he had once curated events so exclusive they were never spoken of outside the glitter-drenched walls of mansions. Now he was the one speaking without a lawyer, without a shield. I saw too much, and for too long I said nothing. The courtroom hung on every word. Behind him, Kash Patel watched in silence, arms crossed. Patel wasn't new to this war. Once a key national security advisor and now an independent investigator, he had shifted his career toward one purpose: exposing what others buried. And with every document, recording, and witness he unearthed, the deeper the hole became. David held up the USB drive. Its red casing was worn, but its contents were radioactive. This is the backup. Star Island 2009. Every angle, every camera, every voice. He placed it into the evidence tray, and as the clerk approached, Diddy's defense attorney, Harold Marston, stood. "Objection, Your Honor. This material was not included in the discovery. It violates federal admissibility requirements under Rule." Judge Moreno raised his hand. "You may raise procedural concerns later, Mr. Marston. For now, let the witness speak. This courtroom will not be a sanctuary for secrets." The room dimmed. The USB is loaded. On screen, a pristine party blinked into motion. Laughter, champagne, A-list faces blurred and distant. But the angles weren't professional, they were hidden. Bookcases, speakers, chandeliers. Surveillance masquerading as ambiance. David narrated, "I placed those cameras. On orders. Every event had to be recorded for security," they said. But the truth is, they were insurance. If anyone talked, there were files that could destroy careers. The scene shifted. A figure appeared beside the pool, shaking Diddy's hand. Face partly obscured, but voice unmistakable. 44 sends his regards. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Kash Patel scribbled a note. Code for Obama. Confirm. He knew the nickname well. 44 was common parlance for the 44th President Barack Obama. Then the lights on screen dimmed. 7 minutes of black footage. David whispered, "That was the protocol." When VIPs arrived, the feeds were cut. When the video resumed, Diddy was alone, speaking to someone off camera. "No leaks. This isn't about music. It's bigger. Let them chase the parties. The real power." The clip ended. Silence. After a stunned recess, the court reconvened. A CNN journalist stood outside the building, broadcasting live. "We're now seeing the investigation take a troubling turn. Allegations now hint at a possible link to the Obama-era White House and internal FBI directives. Some sources, still unconfirmed, say Diddy acted under the direction of unnamed officials in a political leverage program." Inside the courtroom echoed with controversy. Marston demanded to know if the evidence had been tampered with. "Your Honor, this is a coordinated political attack. Patel is using this courtroom to drag the names of respected leaders into a case about a music mogul." Judge Moreno was unmoved. "If there are tapes, documents, or testimonies implicating federal officials, we will not look away. This is not tabloid fodder. This is a court of law." The next witness was a surprise, a man named Manny, former sound technician at Bad Boy Records. Nervous eyes darting, he handed another USB to the judge. "I made my own copy," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "They thought I was just background. But I was there every night, running the wires, syncing the audio." On that second USB, synchronized audio to match the footage. Now the 7-minute blackout had a voice. "All clear, he's with Bo. They'll do the rest. Just smile for the cameras." Kash underlined the note. "Bo Daux Barack Obama investigate." The courtroom's tension snapped. Judge Moreno recessed the court until the next morning. Outside, cameras flashed. Protesters chanted. Inside, Kash met David in a hallway lined with marble. "You said there were contracts," David nodded. "From an entity called True Light Holdings, front company, tied to celebrity management and more. Some docs were co-signed by names you'd never expect." That night, a CNN primetime host opened their segment with a bold claim. Emerging sources now claim that during the Trump administration, certain officials attempted to suppress earlier investigations into Diddy, suggesting the current wave of exposure is actually misdirection. It was a strategic pivot. Shift attention, muddy the timeline. Patel recognized the tactic. He He returned to his office and unsealed a 2017 memo, a DOJ internal conflict report. It didn't exonerate anyone. It named former President Obama, Hillary Clinton, and key FBI agents as potential actors in a covert influence program. But Trump's name was absent. Back in court the next morning, the final scheduled witness was missing. Cassie Ventura, the one who had held the master drive, her chair sat empty. David stood up suddenly. She left a message. I have it. The courtroom fell silent. A clip played. Cassie's voice trembled through the speakers. If this reaches you, I won't run. I just couldn't survive another threat. Ask them about the second hard drive. Ask them about the contracts. And tell the truth. For the ones who never made it out. Everyone listened, even Diddy. By noon, congressional representatives were tweeting. The phrase celebrity leverage program began trending. Whispers of subpoenas circled through federal agencies. FBI insiders leaked more. An internal probe was being opened. And behind the chaos, one name kept surfacing in whispers. BH. Who was BH? A code. A handler, a ghost. Kash Patel filed for expedited congressional review. The real war had just begun. The courtroom buzzed as news of Cassie Ventura's recorded message ricocheted through the press pool and social media. A single voice note barely a minute long was already shaking the foundations of a decade-long cover-up. But behind the audio clip was a deeper truth yet to be unveiled. David James sat slumped on the bench, his face pale. Kash Patel leaned toward him, speaking quietly. Was Cassie the only one with full access to the archive? David hesitated. She had the drive, but not the originals. There's one more person, Chloe Reed. She handled PR for Bad Boy, and she's Jonathan Reed's sister. The connection hit Kash like a thunderclap. Jonathan Reed, the inner-city press reporter, who had just vanished. Chloe, who disappeared years ago after a 2009 party. The dots weren't just connecting, they were forming a noose. Across town, in a secure federal office, a judge reviewed classified testimony. The name Chloe Reed now appeared in official inquiry filings. Kash, meanwhile, had already located her last known legal involvement, a 2009 PR contract buried in paperwork marked Strategic Asset Management Tier 2 Celebrities. The courtroom resumed. Diddy's defense team now pivoted hard. The lead attorney, Harold Marston, stood. Your Honor, the credibility of these witnesses is rooted in paranoia. There is no government directive, no sanctioned conspiracy. These are disjointed accounts wrapped in delusion. Before the judge could answer, Kash stepped forward. Then let us subpoena the communications of Truelight Holdings and its legal counsel in 2009. Let's confirm whether any federal signatures approved the tiered celebrity program. Judge Moreno paused, then granted preliminary approval. Kash returned to his hotel room. He pulled out the red USB Manny had given him, its worn label marked only with Star Isle Alpha. Inside 7 hidden audio tracks. One stood out. Timestamp June 22, 2009. Location tag Star Island Main Wing. Voice 1, unmistakably Diddy. She'll do what we say, she knows the rules. Voice 2 filtered. This isn't about her, it's about the asset pool. Your job is delivery, not discretion. The filtered voice triggered a cascade of voice print comparisons. It matched partial waveform fragments, linked to a known senior FBI advisor still active. Kash now had 2 problems: federal interference and media manipulation. That night, CNN's editor-in-chief, known for close ties to federal officials, published a special report, Unverified, Conspiracies Surrounding Bad Boy Lawsuit, Exploited by Trump Allies. It accused Kash of politicizing a personal vendetta, and even speculated that his actions might violate national security protocols. But buried in the piece was a line that gave it away. Sources confirm a redacted memo, linked to Strategic Comms Directive BH. Kash circled the phrase. It wasn't public. Only DOJ insiders could have leaked it. The attempt to discredit him had exposed the very machinery trying to bury the story. The next day, a courier delivered a single envelope to the courthouse. No sender. Inside, a high-resolution photo. A 2009 party shot. Diddy toasting. Cassie in the corner, hand half raised. And standing behind a curtain, Chloe Reed. Cash showed the photo to David. He nodded. That's her. She knew everything. She ran the media prep for all those parties. And she was terrified. Later that evening, a report emerged. A body had been pulled from the Potomac River. No ID but a tattoo matched Chloe Reed's missing person description. Cash received the alert while reading Jonathan Reed's last published article, "Some Leverage Was Never Meant to Be Public." The implication was clear. Witnesses were being silenced one by one. In a rare bipartisan motion, Congress initiated a closed-door investigation titled Tiered Asset Influence and Cultural Suppression Framework, TAX SF. Its objective to determine whether celebrity influence had been weaponized through covert operations approved at the executive level. Meanwhile, a partial email leak from True Light Holdings revealed a list of Tier 1 and Tier 2 operatives. Tier 1 political assets. Tier 2 entertainment figures used for cultural engineering. Names partially redacted. But one line remained untouched. 44 approved Tier 2 expansion. Cassie V. Poor's keyholder. Chloe R. Orr's logistics. Cash stared at the screen. David James, still reeling from Cassie's message, whispered, "Now what?" Cash looked up. "We found the second hard drive. And we make sure the world hears it." The congressional subpoenas hit like a thunderclap. Overnight inboxes across D.C. lit up with requests for depositions, communications, financial records, anything linked to the 2009 Strategic Comm Directive. Kash Patel, now backed by a rare bipartisan motion, moved quickly. The nation had crossed a threshold. What began as a trial had become a referendum on the abuse of influence. Inside a private evidence room in the federal courthouse, Patel spread out the physical evidence: 3 USB drives, 2 sealed NDAs from 2009, and a single internal memo with Obama-era letterhead, its classification now contested. James stood behind him. "That's the watch," David said, pointing at a time-stamped still from the Star Island video. "I remember that glint. It's not store-bought. That's custom military grade." Meanwhile, reporters from inner-city press and Blaze Media huddled near the courthouse steps, speculating about the unseen footage. The tension was palpable. At 9:04 a.m., a CNN special report dropped. This time the tone had changed. Their editor-in-chief, now cornered by public scrutiny, acknowledged prior oversights in evaluating the gravity of the witness statements. A quiet concession, but an explosive shift. But just 2 paragraphs in another twist. Unnamed sources indicate that the name of a former administration member appears unredacted in the memo under review. Cash slammed his laptop shut. The leak wasn't accidental. It was a threat. "They're trying to bait us into crossing a legal line," he muttered. "But if we don't speak, the silence will kill the rest." That evening, an anonymous source sent a virtual map of D.C. connections. Diddy at the center, surrounded by a ring of celebrities, attorneys, and political names. Red lines marked financial trails, green lines personal favors, but it was the black lines, classified ties, that stunned even Patel. He stared at one node in particular. It wasn't a name, it was a code name: BH. Linked to all parties, federal, untraceable. James spoke. "I asked Chloe once who gave the green light. She said, 'Someone who doesn't sign checks, he signs silences.'" In a dim corridor near the judge's chamber, a janitor stopped Cash. "They got another one," he whispered. "Manny, the sound guy, gone. His apartment's cleared. No trace." Cash tightened his jaw. "That USB he gave me, it's now the last trace." "Not quite," the janitor replied. "There's one more clip. I kept it separate. Buried it in a playlist on a gospel YouTube channel. It's hidden in plain sight. They found it a 7-minute sermon with 30 seconds of unlisted footage at the end. A shaky shot of the Star Island pool, a private conversation barely audible. But the voice print didn't lie. Voice 1. What about 44? Voice 2 handled. He was briefed through Patel, no relation. Cash froze. They used my name to cover clearance. The next morning, Congress convened an emergency hearing. Patel was summoned privately. We believe the cultural leverage program was real, but your name was used as a back channel. You'll need to testify under seal. Patel nodded. I'll do it. But only if the hard drive goes public. No, came the reply. You testify or the driver stays buried. Outside, David James paced the hallway. He had one more card to play. James approached the press gallery that afternoon. There's a backup, not a drive, a person. Who? The journalist asked. He leaned in. Capricorn Clark, the photographer. She didn't die. She went into hiding. Phones buzzed. Search queries exploded. And somewhere on a secure signal, a single message flashed. Capricorn signal detected. The 15th day began without Cassie. The chair reserved for her stood untouched as Judge Rowland called the court to order. Cash Patel entered alone, carrying a manila folder and a solemn expression. David James trailed behind his eyes, scanning the gallery. Outside, protesters held signs that read, "Where is Cassie and truth doesn't disappear." Cash stepped forward. Your Honor, we request to enter into record a statement from Cassie Ventura. It was submitted to my office via encrypted Dropbox at 5:12 a.m. The courtroom tensed. Proceed, said the judge. A court officer dimmed the lights. A voice Cassie's filled the air. If this is playing, I'm either in hiding or I've been silenced. But you deserve to hear the truth. They called it a mentorship, but it was a machine. Diddy was just the face. The engine was bigger, politics, cultural, tactical. As her voice faded, the room sat in stunned silence. That same hour, CNN aired a surprise special Trump connections to Diddy's financial web. It wasn't subtle. The segment used selectively edited footage and innuendo to frame ties between Sean Combs and obscure donors from Trump's 2016 inaugural committee. The White House press corps pushed back within minutes. Former aides issued rebuttals. Patel's team fired off a cease and desist. This is the left's tactic, Cash told James later. Smear first, investigate never. Encrypted chatter on the dark web lit up. One phrase recurred, Capricorn Clark, alive, in Morocco. Cash turned to his encrypted tablet. I've got a contact at Interpol. If she's alive, we find her. She's the vault, James nodded. And maybe she's the only one who can prove what Cassie started. At noon, a federal gag order fell over the case. No new evidence could be entered. Media lockdown initiated. But an hour later, a video surfaced on X, formerly Twitter. Footage of Diddy from 2009, shaking hands with a suited figure whose face was blurred. The voice in the background, allegedly 44's, said, "Wrap it up. Make it look clean." The clip went viral. 2.3 million views in 30 minutes. DOJ quietly launched a probe into leaked memos referencing cultural security assets. Obama-era names were flagged. Clinton, too. No charges, just audits, discreet. At 3:45 p.m., Cash Patel met with House Oversight Committee staffers. This isn't just about Diddy, he told them. This is about how cultural capital was weaponized through celebrity optics. It's systemic. James stood by the window. We're not chasing ghosts anymore. We're fighting shadows with names. That night, an unlisted YouTube live stream flickered online. A woman, face half hidden, stared directly into the camera. My name is Capricorn Clark. I was there. I have the negatives. And if I vanish after this, ask who benefits. The feed ended in static. Patel hit play again. I froze the frame. That's not just testimony, he whispered. That's the key. James nodded. And now the whole world knows it exists. May 28, 2025, 7:02 a.m. Cash Patel stood alone outside the D.C. federal courthouse, the Capitol dome looming behind him. Beside him, a briefcase inside it, 2 USB drives, and a signed affidavit from a missing witness. Cassie Ventura had not been seen since the night her voice was played in court, but her presence lingered louder than ever. At 10:00 a.m., Judge Rowland announced a transition. Due to the interagency implications and national security potential of submitted materials, this trial is hereby transferred to a congressional inquiry under the Federal Cultural Security Review Act. Gasps echoed. A case that began with an artist's alleged crimes had now breached political territory. Meanwhile, in Manhattan, legal assistants at Truity Holdings LLP received a quiet directive, subject Q44 protocol activation, risk matrix escalated, contain all Chloe Link assets, memo audit cycle phase 3, initiated. Admin BH attached was a partial scan of a 2009 Obama-era transition memo. It was the first time an internal White House document explicitly mentioned Sean Combs and Tier 2 cultural deployment. That evening, in Sub-B Vault 6 of the Federal Record Archive, Cash and David James reviewed a high-res still image. Pulled from Star Island party footage, left side Diddy mid-toast, right side David Younger holding a tray. Behind them, 2 blurred figures, one Cassie, the other Capricorn Clark. She was signaling, Cash whispered, trying to stop something, or someone. David's voice cracked, and no one asked why. Until now. In a dusty apartment in Adams, Morgan Reed's laptop remained open. The last sentence of his draft, "My sister Chloe never came back from that night. This isn't journalism. This is personal." Next to the laptop, a burned disc labeled Capricorn Uncut. He never got to submit it. News feeds across the globe shifted from sensationalism to reckoning. El País, The Guardian, Al Jazeera, all with variations of the same headline, The Cassie Files, when celebrity collides with state secrets. Commentators whispered of shadow programs, political immunity, and the machine beneath the mask. At 11:59 p.m., Cassie's recording was re-uploaded by anonymous sources. This version included a line not played in court. "If they make me disappear, it's because I held proof." But justice isn't found in verdicts, it's in memory, legacy, or leverage. In a CNN roundtable that night, one panelist dared to ask, was Cassie Ventura a victim of one man, or a casualty of an entire apparatus? No one answered. The silence spoke. As the National Archives logged the official close of the federal case, Cash and James stood one last time over the table of photos. She asked a question, James said. "And it's ours now." Cash nodded. "Who has the second hard drive?"